Hi everyone, Petko here. The long-awaited Mythic Plus guide, boys and girls, finally on. I've been taking tons of time to prepare it, make sure that it's correct, make sure I take my time, research things, try to explain the things the best way I can, and give you the straightforward information, no bullshits. Obviously, as you guys know, my time is very limited, so thanks to all of you reaching out to me, asking for a guide. Finally decided to do so. Alright, to begin with, who the hell I am, why do you think you should trust me? My name is Petko. I've been playing Shaman for like already 2 years or so. That's only Mythic Plus, but I've been playing the game for like 13 years. I'm the highest elemental Shaman in the world as of now, and previously I've been rank 1 elemental Shaman. So this year I'm looking to be the 3rd time in a row rank 1 elemental Shaman Mythic Plus. So hopefully you guys can tune into my Twitch and watch my live runs. Let's keep grinding together. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is actual talent setup. What should be my talent setup for Mythic Plus? It's gonna be a pretty much standard talent. There's nothing else you should be changing on these rows. Now, this is what I call the Lotto build, because you play Aftershock, which pretty much has a chance to reduce all the maelstrom that you spend on your Earthquake or Earthshock. And that's why I call it Lotto build, right? That's gonna be the most common build, the most useful build. This build is gonna apply on pretty much every single week. Doesn't matter if it's tyrannical, 45, 15 key, 18 key, 20 key, 25 key. It doesn't matter. Now, there is a different build that you could choose depending if you want a bit more single target / prior damage. That's only in a several dungeons. For example, Theater of Pain is a good example where the density of each pack is not high, which means between 3-4 targets at most, this build would excel better. Now, if I play with pucks, I don't play with premates, I would recommend it just go Storm Elemental, generally easier to play. Yeah, but if you want to give it a try, Master Elements, Elemental Blast, pretty solid. Give it a try in Theater of Pain or possibly Plaguefall. If you do play with premates, Plaguefall is going to be this build because you're playing with a Plague-bound Burrowers, which are rigged Plague Burrowers, which explode whenever they're low HP. So pretty much you don't have to do any AoE damage except from boss damage. So this build is going to be pretty useful in Plaguefall and Theater of Pain. Other than this, you play Aftershock, Storm Alley in pretty much every single dungeon, every single week. Alright, second thing we're going to talk about is stat prio. What should be my stat prio? What I should be looking for? So the most important thing to note is your stat prio is going to be always intellect, right? Primary stat, intellect is going to be the most important stat you're looking for, right? And afterwards, it's going to be crit, haste, burst, and afterwards mastery. Now, mastery is the least desirable stat, but since the recent Shaman changes that increased the damage of chain lightning by 35%, I would say mastery is not as bad, even if you have a little bit. Not a big deal unlike BFA, but then again, you want that to be the lowest amount of secondary stat you can allow yourself to have. First, it's gonna be crit. I would say the perfect crit is gonna be between 25%, 20 to 25%, and the perfect haste is gonna be between 15 to 20, or anywhere above 15 or around 15. That's what I want to aim for, and the rest goes to verse. Keep in mind, verse is gonna be only good for prior damage and a little bit of single target. But if you're looking to explode in AoE, crit haste is going to be your main stats. Second thing is, if you're looking to get into some high keys, verse can be very useful because of its survivability. But then again, it's kind of situational and it's up to you. It's character specific feature, right? So what works for me might not work for you because we have a different stat imbalances, right? But I would say 20-25% crit, haste around 15% or more, verse from the rest, and then mastery 0. One thing to mention about weapon enchant. You want to be running always Celestial Guidance. You don't want to be running Sinful Revelation. Celestial Guidance is pretty much a flat 5% intellect buff every time it procs. Pretty neat, I would say, and it's kind of the most standard enchant on a weapon and also the most used. Alright, so the next topic, actual builds. Starting with what is better, Necro or Night Fae? Variant bad. Is Venture bad? Well, let me answer it really straightforward. If you're doing low keys or medium keys, low keys being around 15, medium keys being around from 15 to 19 to even the early 20s, it doesn't matter which covenant you play. But if you're asking which one is the best, in my opinion, Necro and Night Fae are the best. So either of those two will be the best in my opinion. Now, I personally prefer to play Necrolord because I feel like Necrolord is very versatile, first of all. And second of all, you get a primordial wave and extra defensive. Now, Primordial Wave is the only Covenant-specific ability that generates Maelstrom for you. And it's also specifically useful on 2 to 3 target cleave, where Shaman struggles the most. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you how to actually play 2 to 3 targets as an Elemental Shaman, so you guys can kind of get a grip of what I'm trying to tell you. And also, Fleshcraft can be used as another defensive, which is very, very useful. Not only gives you a shield based on your health, but it also gives you a damage reduction by 20%. And as you guys know, Shaman sometimes struggle to survive, so that's pretty unique, and in my opinion, the best Covenant to have. It also is one of the rarest Covenants to have in Mythic Plus, giving you even extra chance to get in a groups. And as you guys know, sometimes when you play off-meta characters, and although Shaman is pretty good right now, it's still not considered meta. It can get you in a groups because, for example, you Ventur or you Necrolord. So, in my opinion, go Necro, you will thank me later. If you decide to go Night Fae, that's also fine. Personally, for Mythic Plus, you should be playing Korean, and you should be going First Strike, which also increases your crit by 25%, 5 seconds. If you attack the enemies before they attack you, you get a crit. I would say it's pretty good. The Fade Transfusion can be very useful on like Prides, because you get high HPS, high DPS, and also extra mobility from Soul Shape. It's nice. Although we have a Spirit Walker's Grace, which kind of helps us with the mobility issues. We have none as of now, so pretty good in that department. To get back to Necrolord, I like to play personally Bowsmith Hammer pretty much with every single build. That's because you get the Marrow Gemstone, which pretty much increases it by 18% for 10 seconds every minute. As you guys know, every minute means I can synergize this with my Stormkeeper, and then if you play Batch, which is the PvP trinket, which we're gonna talk later about it can be pretty nasty combination. So I would say if you're looking to play Necrolord, you're gonna be playing Hammer at all time. I would say 98% of the time, so you should play Hammer. Now, where should I play M&A? M&A is particularly good whenever you decide to play Master of the Elements build, because it gives you slightly more single target, and that's due to pretty much double potency conduit, which I'm going to show you right now. The first one is going to be always called Cold Flame. Cold Flame is going to be used also for Bowsmith Hammer. It's the only conduit that is actually makes sense for you to use it, and one of the most OP ones, because it does increase the duration of your Elemental by 13% depending on the rank of the conduit. You can increase the value of this conduit by having a higher PvP rating. It's only purchasable through PvP. It can drop, I believe, from world quests and also from dungeons, I believe. But that's gonna be like a base level. If you want to have it higher, you should be PvPing. As a fitness conduit, it doesn't really matter what you choose. I prefer the Thunderous Pulse because it does increase my movement speed by like 30%. For example, every time I put my Ghost Wolf, it can be useful, but not a big deal if you don't have it, to be honest. You can choose anything else if you wish to. In my opinion, I think this is kind of what makes sense for me. That's why I chose it. And then double endurance conduit. The most important endurance conduit you're gonna be looking for is gonna be the Vital Curation. Now, what does that conduit do? It's actually very important. It does increase your health by 30% based on the item level of the conduit whenever you have Earth Elemental. So as you guys know, your Earth Elemental gives you another defensive, and then choosing to go that conduit is going to allow you to have higher HP, which means better survivability in some scenarios, for example, like one-shot mechanics. That's pretty good. And then the second potency conduit is going to be Tumbling Waves, which is pretty much a chance not to trigger the cooldown of Primordial Wave, which is going to be extremely useful whenever you fight, for example, 2-3 targets and you use Primordial Wave. It's pretty good, I would say, and that's what you should be looking for if you want to go Master of the Elements. I would say this build is going to be the most optimal if you play High Theater of Pain or Tyrannical Theater of Pain, or for example Plaguefall, but if you play with Primates and you play the Rigged Plague Bearer strategy. Other than this, go Bonesmith, pretty standard choice and probably the most OP one out there. Last thing I want to mention before I start and doubling into gameplay is going to be Trinket choice. Alright, so what are actually the best trinkets for Mythic Plus? I personally consider Batch and Alacrity one of the best trinket combinations in Mythic Plus. Batch because it has 1 minute cooldown, particularly very useful when you pair it with the Stormkeeper. I would say this is like one of the strongest combos, and also gives you crit as a main secondary stat, and also gives you primary stats, in my opinion. And also this trinket, Alacrity, it's pretty neat. Gives you haste, which is like the second best secondary stat, and also primary stat on proc, which is pretty good in my opinion. It also has a high proc chance. It's averaging between 45 and 50% uptime in dungeons, which is pretty good. Now, if you don't PvP and you absolutely despise it, there's some alternatives you can look for. For example, for raiding, you can decide to go Kabbalist Trinket, which is right, this one. Probably one of the better passive trinkets, and it's definitely better if you have it on 233 on Mythic. If not, a heroic version is going to be also fine. If you don't like the PvP at all, that's definitely a good choice. And then the second trinket is going to be Unused Trinket, coming from Sun Kick Salvation, Soul Igniter. There you go. Those are a good trinket to have. So it's up to you to actually decide which one do you prefer. But again, my take would be, if you don't PvP, those two trinket combinations are going to be the best. If you don't do PvP or raiding at all, also an option for you, and entirely for Mythic Plus. The first trinket is going to be Unbound Changeling, pretty good. Gives you a secondary stat based on what food you have. For example, if you have haste food, haste proc, have a crit food, crit proc, and then he also gives you a kind of a passive intellect to go with. Pretty good. And the unused trinket you want to be looking for is going to be from Theater of Pain. The Isolating Ruby. It also gives you a crit chance, which is pretty neat in my opinion. At last, before we dabble into gameplay, what is actually the best build for Mythic Plus? Skybreakers, Echoes. If you guys have followed my stream for a long time, you guys have not noticed that I've been playing Echoes of the Great Sundering pretty much on every single key I join, and that's because I believe Echoes is the best legendary for Mythic Plus. I'll tell you why. First of all, it gives you a better single target damage. Very good when you fight Prideful. It's also very good because it gives you a private damage. For example, let's say you fight 6 mobs. One of the mobs has a high HP than others. What you can do is you can literally funnel your Earth Shocks in it to proc the Echoes of the Great Sundering buff and put Earthquakes on. So you definitely do have more private damage playing this build. And on the other hand, it's easier to execute. It's easier to execute and you don't have to keep track on many things. The only weird thing is like you have to Earth Shock before Earthquake. Most of the times, there's some situations, for example, where you don't Earth Shock, and that's when the mobs are low HP. Let's say I'm fighting these mobs and they're pretty healthy, right? They're like 100%. But if the mobs are like a 10%, you don't bother casting Earth Shock anymore. You only cast Earthquakes until they die, pretty much. So that's pretty much for builds. Skybreaker excels better when the general mobs live for a long time, which is gonna be on 45 week. So the longer the mobs lives, the better value you're gonna get from Skybreaker's demise. And especially if you play Necrolord, you can spread more flame shocks faster, reduce the cooldown of storm melee faster. And in my opinion, I think it could be good in some keys, in some AoE keys, for example, Mists, the other side, Pulse Photoman, those kind of keys. You can see Skybreaker kind of excelling, but most of the time I would say Echoes is gonna be the alternative option. Very solid choice, especially if you play with pucks, especially when you play with inexperienced groups. Echoes has a consistent damage, and you don't rely on actually storm elements to do damage. You only need Stormkeeper and a little bit of knowledge how to do damage, and you'll see yourself exploding. Alright, so that's pretty much about stats, builds, covenant choices, talents, and trinkets. Now we're gonna talk about gameplay and how to actually execute gameplay. Alright boys, now the first lesson, how to actually do AoE as a Shaman, as Elemental Shaman. That is something I usually teach people from the very beginning. It's kind of the foundation of how to play Shaman in Mythic Plus, and I'm gonna show you right now. As you guys know, if you have followed my guides for the previous seasons, that's usually the way I coach people. That's usually the way I teach people as well, and not only in like live keys, but also off stream. And let's begin. All right. So the first thing first you want to look for is before the key starts, you want to get Maelstrom up. Now, how do you do that? Is you can either attack the mobs before the key starts, or you can attack any dummy, for example, or any turnips if you have as a toy. You can attack anything just to get Maelstrom, and then when the key started, you're gonna have a free Maelstrom. Now, what does that mean? It means like a free Earthquake, which means free damage. All right, so here's how we're gonna begin. We're gonna wait until our tank gathers the mobs first of all. You don't wanna steal aggro out of them. You wanna keep calm. You wanna wait until he clicks all the mobs, so you don't die out of aggro, because sometimes that's a really big issue in Mythic Plus, especially with pre-made tanks. Let's begin. All right. So now the first question that you guys have is, when do I flame shock when I play AoE? Well, the question is simple. Right, the answer is simple. Never. Whenever you fight 4 targets or more, you don't flame shock, you don't use tumbling waves, you don't use lava burst, you don't use lava surges, you don't do any of that. When you fight 4 targets or more, you don't do any of that. Right? You only want to focus on chain lightning, earth shock, earthquake. Chain lightning, earth shock, earthquake. Now, just take a look at this right corner of the stream. Now, what happened first? I precasted my Stormkeeper. Why do I precast my Stormkeeper? Is because as soon as I precast it, it goes off cooldown. You guys know Stormkeeper has a 60 seconds cooldown, and as soon as you cast it, it goes off cooldown, which means you're gonna get it more frequently. But you still have like a 15 seconds to play around with it. As you can see right here on my bars, it has already been on for about 4 seconds, and I have 11 seconds more to execute it to its full potential, right? So here's what I do. I pre-cast Stormkeeper before I get in a pack, before my tank even considers to go in the pack, right? I then cast Storm Elemental, and as soon as I cast Storm Elemental, if I have enough Maelstrom, I cast Earthshock, right? Because if you play Echoes of the Great Sundering, that's what I want to be doing. So casting Earthshock, and after this, you're going to be popping everything, which means, what does everything means? Trinkets, potions, ratios, whatever you guys have, you pop them. You do Stormkeeper once. There you go. And you're going to put the Earthquake. Stormkeeper 2. Earthshock. 2 proc Aftershock. You proceed. Earthshock, Earthquake. Chain Lightning, Earthshock, Earthquake. Chain Lightning, Earthshock, Earthquake. Right? Now, when do I use Eye of the Storm ability of the pet? Generally use it only when it's empowered by this called Lighting. This ability is automatically casted by your pet if you have it on assist. And a couple of seconds after you summon that, you're gonna see a buff right here. If you have my wake hours, you're gonna see a buff right here. If you don't, you're gonna see your storm melee kind of, you know, getting bigger, like more lighting-ish, and that's when you know when to place Eye of the Storm. That's the pet ability. It does massive AoE damage. You can also press it whenever Marrow Gemstone is procced. If you play Hammer Bonesmith, which is the Necrolord Soulbind, it gives the additional critical chance, and you can pop it whenever it procs with your Elemental, which can be pretty neat to synergize. So here's the full potential. Earthshock, Earthquake. There we go. We're actually bursting like complete monsters. And as you guys see, we're completely smoking everybody else, right? Obviously, the uncapped AoE of Mage kind of outperforms us, but at the time, I would say if the tank doesn't kite as much, and now you're gonna see my tank is gonna kite like he's being chased by the police or some stuff. Like, look at that now. In 3, 2, 1, look at this. He's gonna literally like be like Schumacher right now, like Formula 1. Look at that. He's like running left and right. Obviously, you guys know that as soon as the tank runs left and right as much, the DPS will naturally, you know, go down. Now, when do I only cast the chain lightings in AoE? Pretty much if your Elemental has like 2-3 seconds left until it disappears, and if you sit at like 50-60 Maelstrom, you can just pretty much spam chain lightning until the end. There's no scenario where you only want to spam chain lightings instead of Earthquake. Not at all, I would say. Maybe very niche situations, but like 99% of the times you want to be casting chain lightning, Earthquake. Okay, that's pretty much for AoE. Now let's jump to how to actually play 2 targets. That's something that people have been asking me. And before I start, I would like to make a graph. All right, so one of the most common questions is, how do I play 2 to 3 targets? I'm gonna explain. So if you fight 2 targets and 3 targets, first of all, 2 targets, you wanna be keeping Flame Shock on all targets. So you wanna put Flame Shock on all targets, and you wanna be hard casting Lava Burst. What does hard cast mean on Lava Burst? Is as soon as it's ready, you cast it, right? So you Lava Burst, and then as soon as you don't have any Lava Burst, you're gonna be pressing Chain Lightning. You don't Lightning Bolt on 2 targets ever anymore. You're gonna be pressing Chain Lightning. The only reason to press Lightning Bolt in this kind of scenario is if you want to have a prior damage on a target he wants to die first, or you have Stormkeeper. Whenever you have Stormkeeper, you only press Chain Lightning on that Stormkeeper if you fight 3 or more targets. If you fight one guy, a singular mob, or 2 mobs, you're gonna be pressing Lightning Bolt with Stormkeeper. So again, to repeat, 2 targets, you want to keep Flame Shock on both of them, and then Lava Burst on cooldown, and then if you don't have anything, you're just casting a chain lightnings. On 3 targets, you want to be keeping 3 Flame Shocks, right? You don't want to hard cast Lava Burst, you want to be casting Lava Surge. Lava Surge is the instant proc of Lava Burst. And then you want to be casting primarily Chain Lightning, Earthshock, Earthquake. So that's how I like to do. I like to press Flame Shock, Tumbling Waves, and press Lava Burst. If I 3 targets, what I like to do, Flame Shock, Tumbling Wave, cast some Chain Lightnings until my 3rd Flame Shock is ready, cast the Flame Shock, cast Lava Burst to spread Lava Burst on all 3 targets. Because if you guys know Tumbling Wave, if you don't know what is Tumbling Wave, I'm going to show you really quick. It's pretty much the soulbind, the conduit that allows you to reset your primordial wave of the target, and that's the Covenant specific ability called Primary Wave. Sorry, Tumbling Wave is the conduit, not the Covenant ability. Primary Wave. So to repeat, Flame Shock, Primary Wave, wait until the third Flame Shock is ready, cast it on a target, easy collab. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you play 2-3 targets when you don't have any cooldowns. When you have cooldowns, you're gonna see me right now. This is gonna be an example of how to play 2 targets as Elemental Shaman in Mythic Plus. Now, I like to, so this is very specific. Now that's, for example, a boss where it's all about timing. So before I pop my Storm Elemental and all the cooldowns, I know that there's going to be a DPS phase when this tree is dead, right? So I like to spend my Lava Burst before I press my Storm Elemental. But pretty much whenever you have Storm Elemental out, the only thing you care about is Lightning Bolt and nothing else on a single target. On 2 targets, you're going to be spamming Chain Lightning, as you guys can see. Look at that. 2 targets, I spam Chain Lightning, and then as soon as it's ready, I press Earthshock or Earthquake. I do not refresh Flame Shocks on a target ever when I have my Storm Ellie out, when I fight 1, 2, or 3 mobs, ever. Even 4 mobs. I never refresh Flame Shock when I have Storm Elemental out. The only way that you can refresh Flame Shock or press Lava Burst during Storm Elemental is 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is have to move to dodge mechanics on the ground, let's say left, right, straight forward, or backwards, and you don't have Spirit Walker's Grace, which is going to be right here on my screen, and then you can, for example, move left and right and just press Flame Shock, so you don't end up AFKing, or press Lava Surge if you have an instant proc, or just press any ability if you want. And then the other way for you to press Lava Burst is, for example, when you know that you won't utilize the full duration of your Storm Elemental, right? So when your Storm Elemental is like, let's say you're fighting the boss and the boss is like 20% health, and you know that it wouldn't survive the whole duration of your Storm Elemental, only then you're gonna alternate between Lava Burst and Flame Shocks and Lightning Bolts, right? But if you can utilize the whole duration of a Storm Elemental, it's generally better to only cast Lightning Bolts or Earthquake at all the time. So that's pretty much how to play 2 targets and 3 targets with Storm Elemental out. If you guys wanna check out more details, or generally know what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right, how I'm playing a specific thing or builds, I usually stream on Twitch pretty much 5 days a week, and on a push weeks I stream quite a lot. If you guys wanna go check it out and check me out, Twitch is gonna be linked in the description below. Then you guys can follow me on Twitter as well. I pretty much stream very regularly. As I said, I usually announce on Twitter when I'm gonna go live. And last, if you guys are interested into coaching and generally in-depth guides for Mythic Plus as Elemental Shaman, I do have a Patreon, which I'm going to attach below as well, that I usually coach people on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, depending on what they schedule with me. And I also provide pretty much a daily articles of Mythic Plus and how to play as Shaman, and very important topics, for example, trinket combinations and how to maximize your DPS on a specific week. For example, when a push week comes, I post like tips and tricks of what I generally do, all the builds I'm using in each dungeon in each week, and then a pretty good articles, guys. You can go check it out. I read about it. I also attach videos in it, pretty good videos. I spend tons of time doing my best to educate you guys, and I hope you really like it. And if you guys want to check out the Patreon, I'm just gonna link it down below. Thank you for watching, guys. That's everything. If you have any questions, my Discord is on. In Discord, ask me questions. I usually don't answer DMs unless I know you, because I have tons and I don't wanna take my time and respond to every single one of you in DMs. Join Discord, ask me the question on a question channel, and I will always respond, always to you. It doesn't matter how stupid your question you think are, or if you come on stream, you can ask me any questions and I will answer you as well. And that's pretty much everything for now. Thank you for watching. You guys have been asking for this guide for a long time, so I already decided to deliver. I'm sorry for the delay. I'm just being very busy in real life, and I do my best to keep everybody happy. But obviously, sometimes I can't really do that. But yeah. Anyway, peace, love, guys. Thank you for watching. Catch you next time. Yeah. Bye.